Network Television proudly presents the 1986 Goodwill Games from Moscow and from Madrid. Brought to you by Pepsi. When it comes to taste and refreshment, time after time, it's Pepsi, the choice of a new generation. And by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
And by CNN, the world's most important network and a proud sponsor of the Goodwill Games.
And now, here is the host of the 1986 Goodwill Games. From Moscow, Bob Neal.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final hour of Day 2 of coverage of the 1986 Goodwill Games. It has been a spectacular weekend, but today, I think more than ever, we really started realizing that the significant events have started to happen here. Right, Mary Ann Laughlin?
And that's right, Bob. Today marked the start of some of the more glamorous track and field events. We saw some spectacularly close races, and we know there'll be many more in the next 14 days. But after 3 days of competition, it seems that there is already good reason to recall some of the most memorable moments in these still young Goodwill Games.
Let's recap the first weekend of action of the 86 Goodwill Games and take a look at some of the pictures and get a feeling of what went on in this wonderful, historic weekend. It was when the Goodwill flame was ignited at Lenin Stadium that the world realized the Goodwill Games had indeed begun. The first medals came in swimming, with a surprisingly strong showing by the U.S. team, giving notice here in Moscow for the stars to keep looking over their shoulders. Of course, there is the peerless Salnikov, the Soviet distance swimmer who set a world record and won 2 gold medals. It was Vladimir Salnikov who was peerless in the 800-meter and in the 1,500-meter race. Our coverage of the men and women's marathon showed the world the sights of Moscow. An Ethiopian policeman and a 37-year-old Moscow woman won the gold there. The esoteric sports have begun, meaning such sports as modern pentathlon. So the 5 sports there, the interesting ones like equestrian, like fencing, cross-country running, that's all begun today, and we'll have some more highlights. America's Evelyn Ashford won the 100-meter, Greg Foster the 110-meter high hurdles, and Tom Petrinoff erased his Olympic disappointment by row. He is a West Coast United States citizen playing for the United States team, and the U.S. and USSR basketball teams, the women's teams playing here in Moscow, are 2-0 and headed apparently for that showdown in game number 5 of that round robin. The Decathlon, the Heptathlon are starting to happen, and we're going to be showing you some scenes from there, from Lenin Stadium, as we continue with our coverage of the 1986 Goodwill Games, the first weekend. We'll get started right after this. Please stay with us. In the world, 10 grueling disciplines or events in the decathlon. They have begun here today, this weekend in Moscow. There are 5 events on the first day, 5 events on the second day. Let's pick up action now in the long jump, and let's go to our colleagues Kevin Christopher and Willie Gaunt at Lenin Stadium.
Back at Lenin Central Stadium, the second discipline in the decathlon was the long jump. Here are your standings after the first event, the 100 meters. Big surprise, couple of East Germans in first and second place. Garrett Armstrong of the United States in third, Thomas Feiner in fourth, and Mike Ramos of the USA rounding out the top 5. There you get a look at the decathlon world best record. And now, up first, our leader after one event, Ulrich Rieke of the East Germans.
We've learned 2 things about the East Germans. They can run and they can jump. Here, Rieke gets a great jump.
25 feet 4 3/4 inches for Rieke on that one. And the Germans began to show us their consistency as you take a look at Jens Pedersen, who was second after the first event.
Jens has somewhat of a bouncy running. He wants to get a lot of lift, and here he gets a great lift, great jump for him. Off to the side a little bit, but a great jump.
25 7 1/4 for Pedersen. They continue to shine in the decathlon. Here you're looking at Grigory Ditiarev of the Soviet Union. He was 6th after the first event.
He's pretty much like Jan Peterson. He has a bouncy run here. He hits the board really good, and he jumps. Pretty good jump, not bad.
Not bad at all. 24 feet 10 inches for Ditiarev of the Soviet Union. In the United States, it was Mike Ramos, and he looked real good in his jump, Willie.
Mike Ramos has great speed coming down the runway. His 40 time looked like it's real good, but what he does here, he gets to the board, great lift, he's up in the air, he PRs by 2.5 inches. So that's a good jump for Mike.
24 feet 6¼ inches. New personal best by almost 3 inches for Ramos. Now here are the results of the long jump. Jens Pedersen and Ulrich Rieke continue to dominate 1-2. Alexei Lichai of the USSR in third. Thomas Halamoda of the East Germans was in fourth, and Grigori Ditiarov finished in fifth. Now here, look at the right knee of John Sayre of the United States, grimacing in pain on his attempt, in obvious agony when he hit the board, and watch what happens now. He limps out of the pit. John Sayre at this point was in agony. And later, Willie had a chance to talk to John about just what happened and how he got injured.
We're here with John Sayre, who were one of our medal hopefuls for the decathlon. Unfortunately, he had to drop out of the event. What exactly happened, John?
Basically, I ran a pretty good 100 meters for me, and we had to sit around for about half an hour after the 100. And by the time we got over the long jump, they were supposed to allow us 2 run-throughs in the long jump. The Soviet athletes already had their marks done on the runway. I don't know how they got down there, right. But they had a metric tape measure out, and then the Americans are used to the metric. So by the time we stretched our feet and inches measurements out, and we're getting ready to warm up, they shut it down, so we weren't able to warm up. So basically, I tried to sprint out on the track and pull the hamstring warming up for the long jump.
You know, that's basically been a problem in European meets, that they don't give you enough time because of all the security and running you in and out. You don't have the proper time to loosen up, and I think that's what happened to you today.
So after 2 events in the decathlon, the East Germans dominating the top 5, joined by 1 Soviet and Mike Ramos of the USA. Coming up later, a bit of a breather for the old wheels as upper body strength comes into play in the shot put.
Part of our coverage of the Goodwill Games includes coverage of the World Basketball Championships for men being held in 7 locations throughout Spain, round 1 being held in 4 different cities. Give you a quick recap right here. In Group A, Spain and Greece are both 2-0. Group A playing their games in Zaragoza. Group B playing their games in Ferrol. The USSR and Israel are 2-0, and that Soviet team looks very good, very tough, and well-balanced, I might add. In Group C, they're playing their games in Malaga. The United States continues to be undefeated, 2-0, and Italy is 1-0. In Group D, Yugoslavia leading. They are also 2-0 and one of the favorites to win in men's basketball. We'll continue the coverage right throughout our coverage of the Goodwill Games here in Moscow. Well, the Soviet swimmers are strong as expected, but the U.S. team apparently has something special. We have a special guest in the studio, and we'll talk about the surprisingly good showing by the U.S. swimmers when we return with coverage of the Goodwill Games. Stay with us. As we said, the U.S. swimming team has been surprisingly strong here. These are not the top U.S. swimmers here in Moscow competing according to the Nationals, the competition that was held to determine the U.S. swimming team that will go to the World Championships that will be held in August. However, the team that came here has served notice that they may be either getting the final swim in to win some medals for some of, particularly the men who have been swimming for a while in U.S. amateur competition, or for particularly in the women's section, and a couple of the men too, some youngsters who are saying we may be around to win some gold in the Olympics and perhaps even in the 1990 Goodwill Games. We have a man who knows all about winning gold medals, who is one of our commentators at swimming, Steve Lundquist, who's joined us now. Steve, I appreciate you coming to the studio. And first of all, I want to go right to the point about these U.S. swimmers. We're going to talk about a lot of things with the Goodwill Games, but we are surprised because, frankly, these were the 3rd, 4th, some even 7th and 8th in their events at the Nationals. They're doing so very well here. Why?
Especially in freestyle. This is their first international competition, a lot of the young kids, and we took our 7th best place here, and we have been very fortunate, have won some relays, and has set American record in the 50 freestyle for women.
What do you think the story is? These swimmers are, and you know, we might mention, as we talked earlier today, these swimmers are setting the times of these events are world-class times. It's not a particularly slow meet, for instance. The times would compete anywhere. Do you have any feeling about it based on who these swimmers are and where they came from?
Essentially, this is their first major competition worldwide. They haven't had the shot that they needed before. So here they are, their first time over in Russia. They've been treated wonderfully. The pool is fast. What I mean by fast, it's deep. The gutters are flow-through. And the competition is wonderful. You can't get better competition in the world. And so they're having their best times. And it's a good feeling to see that these kids someday are going to replace what left in 1984.
The women's swimmers are particularly young swimmers. Some are middle and late teenage swimmers. Talk about your career a little bit and when you start peaking at swimming. You know, we talk about it with tennis and other sports. Are we getting right near that with some of these swimmers?
Essentially, in women's sports, the world records have been set from when you're 14 until you're about 16 years old. But in men, it's later, and I think that has to do with the NC2A, the NCAAs, giving scholarships to college swimmers. Before, women didn't have those scholarships. Now they have them. They're allowed to stick around for a lot longer.
The Soviet swimmers, obviously the swimmers like Vladimir Selnikov are swimming as strongly as they ever are. What about Vladimir Selnikov? Do you have any particular feeling about this star?
The world's best. I remember last night, or the night before, sitting watching TV, and with all the TBS people, we were cheering him on. And it's wonderful to see a man who has stuck around for so long and been on top of the world forever, it seems like. And he's setting more world records. And when does it stop? I don't know. He's got the 400 soon. We'll see if he can come up with another world record.
You were, when we began the Goodwill Games march to Moscow about a year or so ago with Turner Broadcasting System and the folks in the Soviet Union and the athletic federations who brought these athletes here from more than 70 countries. Now, you were one of the original Goodwill ambassadors. You traveled the world talking about it. Take us through just briefly, if you could, from the beginning of talking about the Goodwill Games to what you saw at Lenin Stadium, 100,000 in those ceremonies.
Well, from the beginning, we had a bunch of kids starting out saying, yes, I believe in this. Nobody believed in us. We kept doing it. We kept thriving and saying, yes, these are a Goodwill type of atmosphere, and these games are wonderful for us to get the competition we need worldwide. And we've gone from there to filling the stadium with about 102,000 people. And as you saw, the Soviet-American link up there, something that if that doesn't move you, nothing will, essentially. And we've been very fortunate to have very cooperative people, and throughout in the streets or whether they're in the venues, no matter what, we've been very, very fortunate to have a wonderful games.
One of the most moving swimming events so far of the games came in the men's 4x200 relay, real head-to-head confrontation with the Soviet Union there. We're going to take a commercial break and then come back and have you talk through that event with us. It was something to behold this afternoon.
You bet it was.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Steve Lundquist has joined Marianne Laughlin and myself in the studio to talk about the U.S. swimming team and the Goodwill Games in general. But as we talk about the U.S. swimmers, we mentioned the 4x200 relay with the men's swimmers versus the Soviet Union. As it turned out, of course, there were other nations competing in that, but it was the head-to-head confrontation that so many people get so excited about when it comes to the United States and the Soviet Union. So we're going to take a look at that once again. And as we play that race, it's about 9 minutes long because it's the 4 times 200 meter relay, and we're getting ready to start here. The men on the U.S. team are Paul Robinson, Sean Killian, Randy Everett, and John Witchell. And just before we get started with the 4x200 meter relay here, Steve, I thought it was interesting when I said to you, of these people in the U.S. swim team, the people on these, the 4 men here, how well do you know them? You said not very well, and that may be indicative of this whole team in terms of where they stand in the swimming community coming into these games.
Essentially what happened in 1980, we didn't go to the Olympics. So what happened is you had a lot of the older names, what we call old in swimming. If you're over 20 years old, you're considered you need a wheelchair and a cane. A lot of us stuck around for 84, and we were able to continue, and our names built up. I don't want to say ours, but like people like Rowdy Gaines, Rick Carey, those types. Their names built up and kept building for 4 years, and we were very fortunate to be able to compete in 1984. Here are these kids now filling our shoes, so to speak, and they're doing well.
Well, the United States got off to a good start here in this race, swimming in the center lanes right beside the Soviet swimmers. And interestingly enough, that's what helped make it such a great head-to-head competition. We said prior to the Goodwill Games that of course, there were some great former Olympic stars who are still young enough to compete, who would be here competing, like a Carl Lewis as an example, but that really the new names and some new stars would develop out of these games. And one of the youngsters, Sean Killian, I know, is a very highly recruited high school student who's going to be swimming out on the West Coast.
Yes, he's a fantastic swimmer, as we'll see here soon. He swims the second leg. It's pretty hard to beat, and the Russian stays with him very well. The Soviet stays with him very, very well, and we're going to see some of the best racing you'll see. In 1984, we had a relay team, the same relay team, beat Michael Gross and his friends and teammates, and we call them the Grossbusters. Here, we don't know what we're going to call them, but they sure swam their hearts out.
Well, the crowd at the Olympic Sports Complex, of course, was made up primarily of people who were rooting for the Soviet Union. And you can kind of tell who's out in the lead as we take a look at this replay again by the cheering of the crowd. You see the U.S. swimmer getting ready to hit the water here. It started this close, continued this close. It was at first Paul Robinson, and then Sean Killian, then Randy Everett, then John Witchell swimming the anchor leg. In a race like this, talk a little bit about what's going on with the swimmers. Is it an all-out 200 4 times, that simple?
The one thing that you'll see a lot of young swimmers do, making the mistake of going out too fast. In other words, the first 100 out of the 200 will be very fast if they're not experienced. The thing to do, if you ask me, is to get over on the lane line and suck off this person, suck off their wave, what we call, and trail off of them. You'll notice that the person in second place usually will move over to that lane and get that drag, and it's like surfing, essentially. You get in there, and you can swim your first 100 very easy, and then use your legs really hard in the last 100 and come up and catch this person, and then move on the other side of the lane. That's what you'll find. The younger the swimmer sometimes wants to catch the person in the lead if they're behind. They'll usually try to do it in the first lane, and what happens to the last lane? It's not so good.
When you really think about it, of course, there's a 4x200 meter U.S. swimming team that's headed to the World Games. It'll be happening, the World Championships will be happening in August. They take 4 swimmers and then 2 alternates. So, in effect, the top 6 swimmers would be, as you look at the United States out in the lead right here now, would be already away from these games, headed to Spain for those. So you're talking about swimmers 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 who are competing here. I guess that shows strength. You see some of the U.S. swimmers there cheering at the pool.
It shows you the kind of depth that the United States has versus the rest of the world. The rest of the world, they have 1 or 2 great swimmers, but we have them all the way down the line, and that's what's so interesting. And we did come to this occasion to win and to think we could win. And if you see the teammates and the team members of these swimmers, you'll see them standing up and cheering, and this is their meet to shine.
It's interesting, when we talked, you know, some colleagues of yours from Olympic swimming days are here, of course, calling these races, like Tracy Calkins and Nancy Hogshead and John Neighbor, who was a winner in 1976. Before I go to that, though, we just see the exchange there, the swimmers coming in and the new ones off the diving platform, off the starting blocks, I should say. Tell us about that exchange and how critical that is in a relay.
I remember in our Olympic relay with Rick Carey, Rowdy Gaines, myself, and Pablo Morales, the one thing we did not want to do was false start. It was the last race of the meet. We didn't want to have, like Rowdy especially, we had so much pressure on him. Don't you false start, because we were in the lead. We knew we were going to win, and we wanted to set a world record, but we'd sacrifice the record other than sacrificing the whole race itself, and that's what happened. Here you see a teammate of mine, Randy Everett, who went to SMU. Yes, thank you. And he's swimming well, I must say.
You were speaking of SMU, we'll just drop this in very quickly while we watch Randy Everett swim. You were talking about your friend Eric Dickerson, who's playing professional football in the United States, also an SMU alum. Do you keep in contact with those folks?
I certainly do. Those guys, Eric Dickerson, Craig James, and the likes of them, we stay very much in contact, and hopefully give some money back to SMU and the much-needed football program, swim program, track program, and tennis program this year.
Now, in a moment, we're going to get finished with the 200 meters being swam by Randy Everett, and we're going to see John Witchell. Now, Randy loses the lead in this leg right toward the end, and it's kind of a come-from-behind American victory.
This is, like I said, sometimes you'll find a swimmer that's somewhat inexperienced internationally. They start out really, really fast. They don't have anybody. In this case, he was in the lead. didn't have anybody chasing or didn't have anybody even with him or anybody to chase. So he went out, didn't quite know his pace, and essentially went out too fast. And here you see everybody catching him a little bit. We call that the grand piano, jumping on your back. I always went out like a bullet back in a coffin, and that's essentially what happened here. He did finish very well. We had a great dive by the Soviets, and now they have taken the lead.
You see in the near lane, the American swimmer John Witchell, who has dropped behind here. The American fans in the audience are cheering, and you can see the Soviet fans are also very excited about this because this thing gets right down to the wire. What were your feelings when you were watching it?
Chill bumps. Essentially, here I was in '84 looking at the same exact race, and the Americans coming back from insurmountable odds. The Soviets have their best team here. We have our second best team. And I see this race that's shaping up to be one of the best races here. And you can't help but feel chill bumps looking at these young kids that are going to be representing the United States, hopefully in 1988.
Here comes John Witchell. He is now going to the far end of the pool. He'll make the turn and come back. As you look at the screen now, right in the center of your screen is the Soviet swimmer. Excuse me for not having the name of the Soviet swimmer in front of me right now, but on the near lane is the American swimmer, and you can see that it is head-to-head, arm-to-arm. Is there any particular thing in technique that they're thinking about right now?
The one thing you think about, and if you're even with somebody on that last link, you think shoot the turn. In other words, from 5 yards in to 5 yards out, you pick that pace up and try to catch that person. That's essentially what happened here. We saw the competitor on his right side, now it's his left side, and he stuck his head down and said, I'm going for it, I'm going to shoot this turn, and then right now it comes down to the wire, no breathing, final yards, here we go, and they touch.
Oh,
can you call it? No way.
Chilling. No way to call it. After they looked at it, the American swimmer did touch first. That was John Witchell. And the Soviet swimmer finishing second was Evseev, E-V-S-E-E-F, Nikolai Evseev, who was swimming the last lap. And it was so close, I thought maybe we might have one more of those timing situations. I might mention at the pool, when we watch it come right down to the end, that there are timing devices built right into the wall of the pool.
Right into the wall. And also, if you notice, when they come up here, you will see these things over the lane lines. Up top, a pole. You'll see the pole. You can't see the top of the pole.
Like a camera.
Those are cameras. They go down split second, and you can tell when somebody false starts in a relay, false starts in the regular race, and you can tell who wins the race. And if you notice the screen here, it wasn't a race won by much.
It was won by less than half a second, as you could see on the screen right there. Just incredible. I might just mention the names once again, because we don't know them, but folks, you are going to know these swimmers. Remember, Paul Robinson, Sean Killian, Randy Everett, and John Witchell, members of the American 4x200-meter relay team, winning a gold today in a very exciting competition against the Soviet Union. Joining with Steve Lundquist in congratulating that American team. We'll be right back. Stay with us for our coverage of the Goodwill Games.
And we are back with more of our continuing coverage of the 1986 Goodwill Games. And throughout the 16 days of our event coverage, we're going to be bringing you basketball from 7 different locations in Spain. We've had some interesting games just so far on this, our second day of coverage. We'd like to give you a report now on a game earlier between Spain and Korea from Zaragoza. We go to our correspondent, Mel Proctor, for the call.
This is the Municipal Arena in Zaragoza, Spain, where tonight Spain faced Korea. Both teams in action again after playing last night. Spain beat France in their opener, winning by 4, while Korea lost by 30 to Brazil. The Korean team in the blue uniform, Spain in white. Korea, a good passing team, an excellent outside shooting team, but they lack height and strength and were unable to do much inside against a much bigger Spanish team. Kim Hyun-jun throwing in a three-pointer. A lot of Korean fans in attendance at this game. Spain, a team that likes to run, and Chicho Sebillo finishes off the fast break with a dunk. He played well last night against France and scored 14 points and had another strong game tonight. Korea attempts to execute a fast break of their own, but again, Spain forces them outside. The Koreans just weren't able to do much inside. Kim Yu-tuk frees himself for a jump shot. Korea still leading by a point early in the first half.
But Spain's superior size and strength was just too much for the smaller Korean team. 7-footer Fernando Romay powers his way inside for a basket. He played on the Spanish club championship team, Real Madrid. Korea still hanging on to a slight lead in the first half against Spain. But it was only a matter of time before the Spanish club would take over. Kim Hyun-jun still hot from the outside. He put Korea up 25-24. Spain executing a play from half court, showing the ability to be disciplined as well as execute the fast break. They pounded inside to Fernando Martin, who may be playing in the NBA next year. He is going to the summer camp with the Portland Trail Blazers. The head coach, Antonio Diaz-Miguel, a veteran of 21 years in coaching the Spanish team. That was Korea's last lead as Jose Margai connected on a three-pointer to put Spain ahead to stay. Here comes Spain on the fast break. Epi, one of the most popular players in Spanish basketball history, scores. Juan Creos on a 15-footer, and Spain led at the half 50-42. We pick up action in the second half. Spain has opened up a big lead, 17 points. They go inside to Andres Jimenez, one of the stars of this Spanish team, a 6'8", 216-pounder. Spain way ahead in this game, seemingly out of reach at this juncture. Again, good defense by the Spanish team. Korea thoroughly frustrated in the second half, unable to get many good shots. And here comes Spain with another fast break. Creos pushes it up the floor. Watch this pass by Epi. Underneath to Jordi Villacampa, and Spain defeats Korea 120-73 in Zaragoza.
Well, you can see that was a blowout. Spain, one of the contenders for the gold medal in the World Basketball Championships being held in Spain. You can see why. Spain, the Soviet Union, United States, Yugoslavia are all very tough basketball teams. It could be a really great championship. It's 2 weeks. We'll be covering it all during our coverage of the Goodwill games. Now, we are into some of the sports that you may not get to see a lot on television. For instance, the Heptathlon. That means 7 events. Women are participating in this, and the games got underway today in the Heptathlon. There were really a good matchup there. The American record holder in the Heptathlon is Jackie Joyner. The world record holder from East Germany is Sabina Pates, and they were set to go head-to-head in competition today. Let's pick up our first event. That is the high hurdles, 100-meter high hurdles, and let's pick up the action right now in the Heptathlon.
Central Stadium, site of the track and field competition. Today, this crowd is going to get their rubles worth in the women's Heptathlon event. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Heptathlon coverage, where we are going to determine who is the best track and field athlete of the Goodwill Games with this event. Now, Heptathlon, as the name implies, is 7 events. 4 of them are considered field events, 3 are considered track events. The Heptathlon is a unique event, too, in that it doesn't matter if you win each of the 7 disciplines. What matters are the points that you get on the scoring table. In other words, you may finish 2nd or 3rd in each of the disciplines, yet you may be the overall winner of the Heptathlon competition. The scoring tables award points according to your performance by time or distance. The faster you go, the more points you get. The object is to have the most points to win the event. To illustrate how the points are distributed, let's take a look at the 100-meter hurdles. A difference of 1/10 of a second between finish times translates into a scoring difference of about 14 points. And the 200-meter dash, 1/100th of a second accounts for 1 point. And in the high jump, 1 inch higher can translate into 26 points. So an athlete who is weak in one event is able to make up for it in another by running or jumping better than her closest rival in points. Our first event, the 100-meter hurdles. We have 3 heats. In our first heat, it is Weston of Sweden, Vaser of Germany, Yelena Davidova of the Soviet Union, Dimitrova of Bulgaria, Tanander of Sweden, Rushkit of the Soviet Union, and Katharine Hackrein of the German Democratic Republic. As you take a closer look at Monica Weston of Sweden, this is Marianne Vaser of the German Democratic Republic. This is Davidova, swinging over to Emilia Dimitrova and Kristin Tanander. Rushkit and Dimitrova, 2 very, very fast runners. Veda Rushkit is in lane 6, and Emilia Dimitrova of Bulgaria is in lane 4. And those have got to be considered among the favorites to win this particular heat in the 100-meter hurdles. Dimitrova lane 4, Rushkit in lane 6. And they are off. Lane 6 in the red top and the white shorts. That is Veda Rushkit of the Soviet Union, and she is pulling away. East Germany's Vaser looks very strong, and she will probably pull up second, but here comes Emilia Dimitrova. A close battle for third, but first place belongs to Veda Rushkit. Her time, 13:34. Vaser finishes second at 13:73, and Emilia Dimitrova of Bulgaria finishes third. Those umbrellas are for sun, not for the rain. Our second heat lane assignments. In lane 1, it's Ines Schultz of the German Democratic Republic. Lana Zimmerman of the USA. Nikitina of the Soviet Union is third. Sybil Teal is in lane number 4. Cindy Greiner is in 5. And Mariana Maslenikova is in lane 6. Favorite here might be Maslenikova or Teal, and it is Teal who is pulling it out of the Soviet Union. Sybil Teal, the German Democratic Republic in the blue. It is Teal all the way. She has a Soviet runner right on her tails. That is Marina Maslenikova. And Cindy Greiner of the USA pulls up third. Our winning time for this heat, 13:14. Maslenikova, 13:41. Greiner is third. In this heat now, we have Jackie Joyner of the USA. She will be running. She and her brother, Al Joyner, both won Olympic medals on the same day back in '84. She got the silver, and now she told us about her strategy.
I would like to go under 13 seconds in the 100-meter hurdle. I would like to high jump at least 190. I would like to throw the shot put 15 meters or 50 feet, and I'd like to run a 200 at 22:99 or better.
The words of Jackie Joyner, who could establish an American record. The old standard is 13:24 by Jane Frederick. She wants to break that this day. As we take a look at our lane assignments, it is Joyner, Shubenkova, Pates, Frederick in lane number 4, the record holder. Filatieva in lane 5 and Bemer in lane 6. The world record holder, Sabine Pates at 12:64 is also in this race. She's in lane 3. In fact, that's where our competition is, lanes 1, 2, and 3. Joyner, Shubenkova, and Pates. And they are off. Jackie Joyner in lane 1, Shubenkova in lane 2, Sabine Pates in lane 3. We have the world and American record holders in this event for the heptathlon, and Joyner is just pulling away, and she is at a good clip and looking fine. That clock shows 12:88 if that holds up. She has established an American record. Jackie Joyner in the heptathlon just having a phenomenal day. Her place is first. Her official time has now been told to me, 12:85. Sabine Pates, 13:11. And Natalia Shubenkova, the Soviet Union, finishes third. Her time is 13:23. And let's take another look at Jackie Joyner's fine form. Things are very close in the first hurdle, but boy, does she look good as she pulls away from the pack. That is Sabine Pates, who is our current leader in second place, I should say. And let's see how well she does against Shubenkova. Shubenkova never seems to really gain any ground on anyone. She just seems to fight off the field as Jackie Joyner just pulls away from the pack in this race. It is hers from start to finish. 12:85. Not only is that a personal best, but it is an American record. That 12:88 is not official. That is our time on the television. 12:85, Jackie Joyner, the winner in the 100 meters. Remember now, winning the event is not necessarily that important. It's the points that count. So our final point standings after one event: Jackie Joyner, 1,147. Sabine Pates of East Germany, 11:08. And Sybil Teal is at 11:03. The rest of the USA finishers are Cindy Greiner and Jane Frederick in 8th and 9th.
Steve Lundquist, and we've been talking about swimming. Last night, Paul Horning is our special guest on our late show and the reporting the first day of the Goodwill Games. And I threw Paul kind of a curve and says, how about swimming, Paul? And he looked at the camera and says, yeah, how about it? So we're about to show some more of our decathlon coverage, Steve. So what about decathlon? Are your connections there?
Bruce Jenner is a friend of mine, and so I consider myself a knowledgeable person on the sport.
That's good enough for me if it's good enough for Steve Lundquist. We are going to now rejoin Kevin Christopher, our commentator at the decathlon site at Lennon Stadium, and pick up two more of the events there, the shot put and the high jump, as we continue the coverage of the decathlon.
Kevin Christopher and Willie Gault back with you again from Lennon Central Stadium. Want to remind you the standings after the first two events. Again, it was the East Germans, Rike and Pedersen, leading the way. Didiarov of the Soviet Union, Halamoda, and Mike Ramos in 5th place from the United States. The next event was the shot put, and here you take a look at Mike Ramos.
Mike Ramos threw the shot put 49 feet, 10 1/2 inches for 802 points here. Good technique, good throw here from Mike. 802 points on his 49 feet 10 1/2 inch throw.
Yeah, here's where the guys with the upper body strength really get a chance to shine. You're looking at Alexander Apechev of the Soviet Union.
Apechev threw the shot 51 feet 4 1/4 inch for 830 points. Very good throw there. 51 feet 4 1/4 inch.
Here's a guy that needs a good toss in this field event, Uwe Freimut. He can pick up some ground here, Wood.
Uwe threw the shot 51 feet 1 3/4 inches for 826 points. A very good throw for him.
And as we take a look at the results of the shot, Apechev with a good heave finished in first, followed by Freimut, Ditiarov, Nyberg of Sweden, and Mike Ramos finished in fifth. The standings after 3 events, Enrique and Peterson still leading the way. Ditiarov is in third, Mike Ramos in fourth, and Halamoda of East Germany has moved into 5th place. The next event was the high jump as you take a look at the Decathlon world best in that event. And here's Jens Pedersen, a man who has held down 2nd place through the first 3 events.
Just good enough to stay within the top 2 of the competition.
Next up was the Soviet Union's Alexei Lechai.
He jumped 6 feet 8 3/4 inches for 850 points, shall I say. 6 feet 8 3/4 inches, 850 points. A good jump for him.
Excellent leap by Lechai right there. And Mike Ramos is really starting to come on for the Americans here.
Mike Ramos jumped 6 feet 7 1/2 inches for 822 points. A very good jump for Mike.
Now we get a look at Tim Bright, also of the United States. Haven't seen much of Tim to this point, and boy, he really nailed one.
Tim won the event, of course, with a jump of 6 feet 11 inches for 906 points. He really needed those points. Great jump there by Tim.
Just a fantastic jump by Tim Bright. So here's a look at your high jump results. Bright, 6'11", Tarnovetsky of the Soviet Union, Lechai, Ditiarov, and Mike Ramos finished in 5th. Your stand for it.
And the 4th and last of today's heptathlon events was the women's 200 meter. This is the time when endurance really becomes a factor. Let's check out Leander Riley's report.
Our final event of the evening is about to begin, and as you look at Moscow State University, which has a magnificent view here from Lenin Central Stadium, you can tell that the sun is beginning to set. It also may mean that some of our athletes are beginning to weaken as the day has grown long and they have grown maybe a little bit fatigued. Our lane assignments for the first of 3 heats in the 200-meter dash. In lane 1, Catherine Hakrein. Lane 2, Vaida Rushkit. In lane 3, Christine Tanander. In lane 4, Emilia Dimitrova. She's from Bulgaria. In lane 5, Yelena Davidova from the Soviet Union. Lane 6, Marian Weser from the German Democratic Republic. Monica Weston of Sweden is in lane number 7. Now the surprise here could be the small Bulgarian in lane number 4, Emilia Dimitrova, pardon me. She is small but very, very powerful, and she looks like she has a lead right now in lane number 4 in the red top and the white shorts. It is Dimitrova, and she is of Bulgaria, and she has opened up a wide lead after the turn. This race is all hers, hand down. That is Hakrein, you see, the German Democratic Republic coming up 2nd. Marianne Weser, the German Democratic Republic, pulling up 3rd. So a strong finish for the East Germans, but it is the Bulgarian who finishes 1st, and she's happy with her performance, although it says 24:46 there. That is not the official time. Emilia Dimitrova just pulling away from the crowd as we take another look. Her official time, 23:17 as she crosses the wire. Emilia Dimitrova of Bulgaria, our winner. She is 1st, Hakrein is 2nd, and Marianne Weser is 3rd from the German Democratic Republic. Now let's move to our 2nd heat. This is the one where we have American Jackie Joyner in here. Anke Bemmer is in lane 1. Filitovia is in lane 2. Jane Frederick is in lane 3. Sabine Pates in lane 4. Natalia Shubenkova of the Soviet Union in lane 5. And Jackie Joyner of the USA is in lane 6. Shubenkova, Joyner, Bemmer, all considered favorites in this event. Any one of these ladies could win it. And Jackie gets off to a great start, although she's in the outside lane. It doesn't seem to bother her. You can't really tell until they come out of the curve who's our true leader. Making a strong move on the inside is Anke Bemmer. But Jackie Joyner is our leader. Bemmer is very, very close, and Shubenkova is in 3rd, and Joyner is now starting to pull away. Jackie Joyner trying to break 23, very close. She may have broken the 23-second barrier for her. She would like to do that. Anke Bemmer congratulating her from the German Democratic Republic. I think it was Natalia Zhubenkova who finishes third. We'll take another look at that to confirm that and also confirm the time. As I said, 23:44 is not the correct time. That's approximate. Jackie Joyner way out in front, ahead of Anke Bemmer of the German Democratic Republic. Also in this heat is Sabine Paetz, and that's who's closest to Jackie in the point standing, but it is Jackie Joyner who wins it. Her time officially is now 23 flat. Anke Bemmer 23:41. Our lane assignments for number 3, our final heat: Mariana Maslenikova, Cindy Greiner of the USA, Sybil Teal is in lane 3, Larissa Nikitina of the Soviet Union in lane 4, Lana Zimmerman in lane 5, and Ines Schultz in lane number 6. Now, the time they want to beat is 23 seconds if they're trying to gain any ground whatsoever on Jackie Joyner. Cindy Greiner is very strong in this event. She is in lane number 2, but our leader right now is Teal of the German Democratic Republic, and this is a very close race between Greiner and Teal. And it's Teal's coming out, but Greiner's gaining on her. Greiner moving up. Can she do it? No, it'll be Sybil Teal of the German Democratic Republic. It looks like her time will be over 24 seconds, so Jackie Joyner should win this event. Cindy Greiner finishes second, and Mariana Maslenikova looks like she has third. Again, this is unofficial. As we take another look, a fine move by Cindy Greiner. She simply ran out of time before, or ran out of space, I guess I should say, before Sybil Teal crossed the line. And maybe if this was a 210-meter event, Greiner could have pulled it off. But Sybil Teal of East Germany hangs on at the finish to win this third heat of the women's 200-meter dash. 24:18 is now the official time I've been given. Cindy Greiner of the USA finishes with 24:24, and Mariana Maslenikova finishes with a 24:4. So the sun sets on Lenin Central Stadium, and our point standings show that Jackie Joyner is our first day leader with 41:51. Anke Bemmer 39:35, Sybil Teal 39:22, Sabine Paetz 38:74. I'm joined now by Jackie Joyner, our point leader at this juncture. Your thoughts on today's performance? Are you in the points where you wanted to be?
Yes, I'm very close to where I wanted to be, especially with the hurdles going well. The high jump went well. I didn't throw the shot put as far as I wanted to, but coming back and running a good 200, I was very pleased with that. So now I'm looking forward towards tomorrow and getting a good long jump off, throwing the javelin competitive, and running a good 800.
You said you didn't do what you wanted to do in the shot put. Does that mean you're going to have to do a little bit better in something else to make up for it? And if so, what event would that be?
No, not exactly, because I threw 48 feet 5.5 inches, and my best has been 48.6. But I wanted to throw 50 feet. So I'm looking to go anywhere from 680 to 7 meters in the long jump, looking for at least 160 to 165 in the javelin, and being very competitive in 800. I would like to run 210. I'm tired of running 214.
7,000 still within your reach?
Yes, that's my goal, and that's what I'm going for.
All right, we'll be with you tomorrow. That concludes our coverage of the Heptathlon. As Jackie alluded to, our events tomorrow are the long jump, the javelin, and the 800-meter. From Lenin Central Stadium, I'm Leandra Riley.
And we'll look forward to hearing more of the activities of Jackie Joyner. She goes and tries to break that 7,000-point barrier tomorrow at day 2 of our Heptathlon coverage on the women's event. And we will have more Goodwill Games coverage for you after this. Stay with us. Players Club.
We've been showing you some of the coverage of the first day, the first 5 events in the decathlon. Let's update you on the standings right now after completing day 1. Day 2, the second 5 events will happen tomorrow. You can see East Germany leading in the first 2 spots, followed by the Soviet Union, and Ramos of the United States is in 5th place going into day 2 of the decathlon. I'd like to thank once again Steve Lundquist for joining us on our late show coverage of the Goodwill Games on day 2. Steve, what about swimming? What do you think's coming up tomorrow? What are predictions you may have?
We've got some great races coming up, women's and men's, but the main thing that I hope to see is Mr. Selnikov try to set that world record and go for his 3rd gold.
Steve, thanks for being with us. We'll be talking to you again during our coverage of the game. And Marianne, tomorrow we have another full day of activity.
We've got a full day tomorrow. We've got volleyball, we've got basketball, we've got track and field, more modern pen activities, and of course more swimming. And we're going to bring it all to our audience.
And we hope you'll join us tomorrow as we continue with our coverage of the 1986 Goodwill Games Day 3. For Marianne Laughlin, Steve Lundquist, our entire TBS sports crew, this is Bob Neal saying so long from Moscow.